What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to explore some of the most insane places on Earth. I'm talking about places that are so crazy, so unbelievable, they feel like they're straight out of a sci-fi movie. If you want to see more cool videos on our channel, and trust me, we do have some absolutely wild adventures planned, make sure you are subscribed. And don't just subscribe, press this bell and enable notifications so you literally never miss an upload. You guys know about the 7 wonders of the natural world, right? Like the Grand Canyon and Mount Everest? They're huge and awesome, but size isn't everything. We found places that are way, way stranger. These aren't just your average tourist spots. We're diving deep into mysteries that have left the world's smartest scientists completely baffled. Imagine a river that boils animals alive, a storm that never ends, or a waterfall that just disappears. These are places that seem totally alien, almost like they don't belong on our planet. They defy every rule of science we thought we knew. For some of these, there are theories, but for others, absolutely nothing. Just pure, unexplained mystery that will make you question everything. So, get ready, because for the next few minutes, we're taking you on a tour of the 10 most mind-blowing natural wonders you won't believe actually exist. We're going to count them down, from an impossibly hot river in the Amazon to a mysterious hole that swallows an entire river. I promise you, by the end of this video, your mind will be completely blown. Let's get into it. Alright, kicking off our list at number 10 is something straight out of a nightmare. Imagine you're deep in the Amazon rainforest, the largest jungle on Earth. You're surrounded by incredible wildlife, sounds you've never heard before, and then you stumble upon a river. But this isn't just any river. The water is literally boiling. I'm not exaggerating, this is the Timpishka, also known as the Boiling River, in Peru. The temperatures here can reach up to 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot enough to cook anything that falls into it. I mean, think about that. Any unlucky animal, a frog, a snake, even a small monkey that accidentally tumbles into the water is cooked alive within seconds. Local legends have talked about this river for centuries, calling it the river boiled by the heat of the sun. For a long time, scientists thought it was just a myth because, geologically, it makes no sense. Usually, for water to get this hot, you need to be near a volcano. But the closest active volcano to this river is over 700 kilometers or 400 miles away. There's no volcanic activity anywhere close to it. So what's heating this river up to a rolling boil? That is the million-dollar question that has scientists completely stumped. The leading theory is that there are fault-fed hot springs deep beneath the Earth's surface that are feeding into the river. But no one has been able to prove it definitively. It's a massive geological anomaly. The water is heated underground and then bubbles up into this specific 6-kilometer stretch of the river. It's not a small hot spring, it's a whole river, flowing and boiling through the jungle. It's one of the most dangerous and mysterious places you could possibly visit. The steam rising from the water creates this eerie, foggy landscape that looks completely surreal. The air is thick and humid, and the sound of the bubbling water is constant. Geologists are still studying it, trying to map the underground systems that could be causing this phenomenon. But for now, the boiling river remains a terrifying and scientifically baffling wonder of the natural world, a place where the Earth itself seems to be cooking. Coming in at number 9, we have a weather phenomenon so intense, it's like something out of a Thor movie. Head over to Venezuela, to the spot where the Catatumbo River flows into Lake Karachay. Here, you will witness the Catatumbo lightning, a storm that basically never stops. I'm not talking about a quick thunderstorm that passes in an hour. This is a nearly constant light show that happens up to 300 nights a year, for up to 10 hours a night. It's a silent storm too. The thunder is rarely heard because it's happening so high up in the clouds, over 5 kilometers in the sky. Imagine looking out your window every single night and seeing the sky light up with thousands upon thousands of lightning strikes. We're talking about an average of 28 strikes per minute. At its peak, it can be over 60 strikes a minute. This phenomenon is so reliable and bright that for centuries, sailors used it for navigation, calling it the Lighthouse of Maracaibo. It's the single most electric place on the entire planet, producing more ozone than any other spot. But here's the crazy part. Nobody knows for sure why it happens with such incredible regularity and intensity right here. Scientists have a few theories, of course. The most popular one involves a perfect storm of topography and wind patterns. The Andes Mountains trap warm, moist winds coming off the Caribbean Sea. As this moist air is forced to rise over the mountains, it cools and forms massive thunderclouds. Methane gas rising from the marshes and oil deposits below the lake is also thought to play a role, possibly increasing the conductivity of the air, making it easier for lightning to form. It's a perfect, unique combination of ingredients. But even with these theories, the exact mechanism that makes it so consistent and powerful is still a huge debate. Why this one specific spot? Why is it silent? Why does it sometimes stop for weeks like it did in 2010 and then start right back up again? The Catatumbo lightning is a massive, beautiful, and terrifying display of nature's power. It's a place where the sky is in a constant state of fury, a puzzle that atmospheric scientists are still desperately trying to solve. For now, it remains a spectacular, unending mystery. Next up at number 8, we have something you can't see, but you can definitely hear, or at least some people can. We're going to a small town in New Mexico called Taos. For decades, some residents here have been tormented by a mysterious sound. It's a low-frequency, persistent humming or buzzing noise. They call it the Taos hum. It's not loud, but it's maddeningly constant, and it seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Only about 2% of the population in Taos can actually hear it, and for them, it's a living nightmare. People who hear the hum describe it as sounding like a distant diesel engine idling, or a low-pitched drone. It often causes dizziness, nausea, headaches, and insomnia. It's a form of auditory torture that has driven some people to move away from the town just to escape the sound. The weirdest part is that it's completely undetectable by most microphones and audio equipment. When scientists and investigators have come to Taos to study it, their sensitive equipment picks up nothing out of the ordinary, even while the people standing next to them can hear the hum loud and clear. This has led to all sorts of wild theories. Some people blame secret underground military bases or communication systems. Others think it's a strange geological phenomenon or a side effect of power lines. There are even theories about mass hysteria or a rare form of tinnitus that affects a group of people in the same way. In the 1990s, Congress even directed a team from the University of New Mexico to investigate. They conducted a massive study, bringing in acoustical experts, psychologists, and engineers. Their conclusion? They couldn't find the source. They confirmed that a small percentage of people were genuinely hearing something, but they had no idea what it was or where it was coming from. Similar hums have been reported in other parts of the world, like Bristol in England and Bondi in Australia. But the Taos hum is the most famous and the most studied. It remains an invisible, untraceable phenomenon, a sound that exists only for a select few, driving them crazy while the rest of the world hears nothing but silence. For number 7, we're flying all the way to southern Africa, to the Namib Desert. This is actually one of the oldest and driest deserts in the world. And scattered across its grassy plains are, believe it or not, millions of perfectly circular, barren patches of sand. They are known as the fairy circles of Namibia. These circles can range from about 2 to 15 meters or 7 to 50 feet in diameter. From the air, it honestly looks like the landscape has a bad case of polka dots. Each circle is just a patch of bare soil, surrounded by a ring of taller, greener grass. The truly mind-boggling thing about these circles is their uniformity and distribution. They're almost perfectly round, and they're spaced out in a strangely regular pattern, never overlapping. They can last for decades, with some estimated to be up to 75 years old, before suddenly disappearing and new ones forming. For years, scientists have been locked in a fierce debate trying to explain what creates these bizarre patterns. It's honestly one of the biggest arguments in ecology, and nobody can seem to agree on the answer. One major theory is that the circles are created by sand termites. The idea is that underground colonies of a specific termite species eat the roots of the grass, creating the barren patch in the center. The circle then acts as a water trap, allowing the grass on the perimeter to thrive, which the termites can then feed on. Scientists have actually found these termites in many of the circles, which seems to support this idea. But this theory doesn't explain why the circles are so perfectly round and evenly spaced. The other leading theory is that the circles are a result of plants competing for scarce water. In this incredibly dry environment, stronger grasses might suck up all the water in a central patch, causing the weaker plants there to die. This creates a barren area where rainwater can collect, which then flows to the edges, feeding the ring of taller grass around it. Computer models have shown that this kind of self-organizing plant behavior can create patterns that look exactly like the fairy circles. The debate rages on. Is it termites, or is it plants? Or is it something else entirely? For now, the desert keeps its secret. At number 6, we have a medical mystery that honestly sounds like a Twilight Zone episode. Imagine an entire town where people just randomly fall into a deep sleep for days at a time. This was the reality for the residents of Kalachi, a small village in Kazakhstan. Starting around 2013, people began to experience what was dubbed the sleeping sickness. Without any warning, a person would suddenly become overwhelmingly drowsy, fall asleep, and remain unconscious for anywhere from 2 to 6 days. When they finally woke up, they would have no memory of what happened and often suffered from severe side effects like hallucinations, memory loss, dizziness, and nausea. It could happen to anyone, anywhere. Children would fall asleep in the middle of a school lesson. People would collapse while walking down the street or riding their bikes. At its peak, nearly a quarter of the village's 600 residents had been affected. It was a terrifying, unpredictable epidemic that totally baffled doctors and scientists from all over the world. Naturally, a massive investigation was launched. Teams of scientists descended on Kalachi, testing everything they could think of. They tested the air, the water, the soil, the food. They checked for viruses, bacteria, and environmental toxins. For years, they found nothing. The leading theory eventually pointed to a nearby abandoned Soviet-era uranium mine. The idea was that the mine was leaking radon gas, which is a colorless, odorless radioactive gas. When radon decays, it reduces oxygen levels in the air. The theory goes that under certain weather conditions, a combination of radon and carbon monoxide could build up in the town's air, displacing oxygen and causing people to basically pass out from oxygen deprivation. This seems plausible, but it doesn't fully explain why it only affected certain people, or why the symptoms were so specific. Despite this being the most accepted explanation, some researchers are still not convinced it's the whole story. The mystery was so profound and terrifying that the Kazakh government eventually relocated the entire village in 2015, moving all the residents to other areas. Kalachi is now a ghost town, leaving its sleepy secret behind. In a small town called Casorzo in the Piedmont region of Italy, there is something you just won't see anywhere else in the world. A tree growing on top of another tree. And I don't mean a small vine or a little sapling. This is a full-grown, healthy cherry tree, flourishing on top of a mature mulberry tree. It's known as the double tree of Casorzo, or Bialbero di Casorzo in Italian, and it's honestly a complete and total mystery. Normally, when a seed lands on another tree, it might sprout, but it won't survive for long. It would have very limited soil and nutrients to draw from. At best, it would be a small, stunted plant. But in this case, the cherry tree has grown large and strong, with long branches that spread out just like a normal tree. Both the cherry tree and the mulberry tree it sits on are perfectly healthy. They both produce leaves and fruit every year. It's two distinct, full-sized trees fused into one impossible structure. So how did this happen? No one knows for sure. The most common theory is that a bird dropped a cherry pit onto the top of the mulberry tree. The seed then fell into a hollow cavity in the mulberry's trunk. This cavity must have had enough humus and moisture to allow the cherry seed to germinate and grow. But the truly incredible part is how the cherry tree's roots managed to find their way down through the mulberry's hollow trunk to reach the soil below. This would have been a 1 in a billion shot. The roots would have had to navigate a long, dark, and difficult path to find earth and water, allowing the cherry tree to thrive and grow to its current size. It's an extraordinary example of resilience and a complete fluke of nature. There's just no scientific experiment that could replicate this. It's simply something that happened, a beautiful accident that has created one of the most unique and puzzling living wonders on the planet. Alright, for number 7, we're heading to a place you should never ever visit. This isn't a beautiful mystery, it's a terrifying monument to human error. Welcome to Lake Karachay, in the southern Ural Mountains of Russia. From a distance, it might look like any other small lake, but this body of water is arguably the most polluted, most dangerous place on the entire planet. It is so incredibly radioactive that standing on its shore for just 1 hour would give you a lethal dose of radiation, leading to a certain and painful death. This nightmare began in the 1950s. The lake was used as a dumping ground for high-level radioactive waste from the Mayak Production Association, one of the biggest and leakiest nuclear facilities in the Soviet Union. For decades, they poured unimaginable quantities of nuclear waste directly into the Teka River, and then, starting in 1951, into Lake Karachay itself. They treated it like a giant convenient trash can for some of the deadliest substances known to man. like strontium-90 and cesium-137. The situation got even worse over time. In 1967, a severe drought caused the lake to dry up. The wind picked up the now exposed radioactive dust from the lakebed and blew it across the land, irradiating an area of over 2,700 square kilometers and exposing 500,000 people to radiation. It was a silent, invisible disaster, with devastating long-term health consequences for the entire region, including soaring cancer rates and birth defects. The lake became a slow-motion Chernobyl. Since the 1970s, Russian scientists have been trying to fix this catastrophic mess. Their solution was to essentially entomb the lake. Over several decades, they have been filling it with thousands of concrete blocks and tons of rock and soil to try and seal the radioactive sediment at the bottom and prevent it from spreading further. The lake is now completely filled in, no longer a visible body of water, but a buried tomb of nuclear waste. It stands as a horrifying reminder of the long-lasting dangers of nuclear contamination, a man-made wonder of the most terrifying kind. Coming in at number 8 is a place that was sealed off from the rest of the world for over 5.5 million years. In 1986, workers in Romania were testing the ground for a new power plant when they stumbled upon a bizarre and unique cave system, Movile Cave. This wasn't just any cave. It had been completely isolated from the outside world, with no natural entrance. What they found inside was a whole new world, a lost ecosystem that had evolved in complete darkness and isolation for millions of years. The atmosphere inside Movile Cave is completely toxic to humans and most life on Earth. It has less than half the amount of oxygen you'd find in the air outside, and it's filled with poisonous gases like hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide, and high concentrations of methane. The air smells strongly of rotten eggs. Without special breathing equipment, you would pass out and die in minutes. It's one of the most hostile environments imaginable, yet it is teeming with life. Scientists who have explored the cave have discovered a completely unique food chain. At the bottom are chemosynthetic bacteria, which instead of using sunlight for energy like plants do, get their energy from chemical reactions, specifically by oxidizing the sulfurous compounds in the water. These bacteria form floating mats on the surface of the cave's water, and they are the foundation for the entire ecosystem. Everything else in the cave feeds on these bacterial mats, and the creatures they found are like nothing else on Earth. So far, they have identified 48 different species, and 33 of them are endemic, meaning they are found nowhere else in the world. These include blind spiders, albino woodlice, water scorpions, and a unique species of eyeless leech. These creatures have spent millions of years adapting to a life of total darkness and toxic air. Movile Cave is like a time capsule, a window into what life might look like on other planets, and scientists are still just beginning to understand the secrets it holds. For our 9th wonder, we're heading to the cold, remote Hessdalen Valley in central Norway. For over 40 years, this valley has been the site of one of the most persistent and baffling UFO phenomena in the world. Almost every night, strange, unexplained lights appear in the sky. These aren't just simple flashes. The Hessdalen lights can be bright white, yellow, or red. They can hang stationary in the sky for up to an hour, then suddenly zip away at incredible speeds. Sometimes they float slowly down the valley, and other times they pulsate or change shape. This all started gaining widespread attention in the early 1980s, when the sightings became incredibly frequent, with up to 20 reports a week. The lights were seen by hundreds of local residents, and the phenomenon was so consistent that it attracted scientists from all over the world. In 1983, Project Hessdalen was launched, setting up a permanent automated scientific research station in the valley to try and capture and study these lights. They have been observing them ever since. Over the years, the station's cameras, radar, and other sensors have captured a ton of data, but it has only deepened the mystery. They have ruled out a lot of conventional explanations. The lights are not airplanes, helicopters, or car headlights. They aren't meteors or strange atmospheric reflections of distant lights. The radar data shows that they are solid, physical objects, but they behave in ways that defy our understanding of physics. They appear and disappear from radar, and sometimes they are visible to the eye but don't show up on radar at all. So what are they? One scientific theory suggests the valley acts like a giant natural battery. It's thought that the different types of rock on either side of the valley, combined with the sulfurous river running through it, could create an electrical charge that ionizes the air and creates pockets of plasma, or ball lightning. This is a compelling idea, but it doesn't explain all the behaviors, like the lights that seem to be structured or move in intelligent patterns. The Hessdalen lights remain a genuine, scientifically observed, unidentified aerial phenomenon, a nightly light show with no director. And finally, at number 10, we have a mystery that has puzzled hikers and geologists for generations. We're in Judge C.R. Magny State Park in Minnesota, at a waterfall on the Brule River called the Devil's Kettle. Here, the river splits into two at a rock outcrop. The eastern side tumbles down a normal two-step waterfall and continues on its way to Lake Superior. But the western side, that's where things get weird. The water plunges 10 feet into a giant, deep pothole in the rock, the Devil's Kettle, and then it just vanishes. I mean it. Literally half of the river's water disappears into this hole, and for over a century, nobody could figure out where it went. This wasn't a small trickle. It's a significant amount of water just gone. People have thrown all sorts of things into the kettle to try and trace it. Logs, ping pong balls, GPS trackers, and brightly colored dyes. They would then search downstream along the Brule River and the shores of Lake Superior, expecting the objects or dye to reappear somewhere. But they never did. Nothing that went into the Devil's Kettle was ever seen again. This led to all sorts of crazy speculation. Was it an impossibly deep cave that led to the center of the Earth? Was it a super-secret underground channel that emptied out somewhere deep under Lake Superior? The geology of the area is mostly solid volcanic rock called rhyolite, which is extremely hard and not prone to forming caves or sinkholes, making the mystery even more profound. For decades, it was one of the great unsolved geographical puzzles of North America. But, and this is a huge but, in 2017, hydrologists finally claimed to have solved the mystery. And the answer is so simple, it's almost disappointing. They measured the volume of water flowing in the river right above the waterfall and then measured it again a few hundred feet downstream. The numbers were virtually identical. This means the water isn't disappearing at all. It must be re-entering the river from an underground passage just below the falls. The reason dyes and objects never reappeared is likely because the violent churning force of the water inside the kettle is so powerful that it pulverizes everything into tiny pieces before it rejoins the main flow. So while the mystery is probably solved, no one has ever actually seen the exit point, and the legend of the disappearing river lives on. And that is it. 10 of the most mind-blowing, mysterious, and scientifically baffling places on Earth. From a river that boils to a waterfall that vanishes, our planet is so much weirder than we can even imagine. I honestly don't know which one is crazier. The sleeping city or the never-ending lightning storm. It just goes to show that no matter how much we think we know, there are still so many secrets out there waiting to be discovered. Thanks so much for watching and coming on this insane journey with us. If you enjoyed this video and had your mind blown even a little bit, do us a huge favor and absolutely demolish that like button. It helps the channel more than you know. And we want to hear from you. Which of these 10 wonders did you find the most unbelievable? Is there a mysterious place we missed? Let us know in the comments down below. I read as many as I can. We love hearing your thoughts and theories on these bizarre mysteries. Don't forget to share this video with a friend who needs to see how crazy our world is. And if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the first to see our next adventure. We have some absolutely epic videos coming up that you are not going to want to miss. Thank you again for all your support. We'll see you in the next video.